Hello and welcome back to An Old Man Watches, where today I'm going to be talking about the 2022 offering Bones and All, which chronicles the slowly developing relationship and romance of two likable young people, both of whom happen to be cannibals. So the film begins somewhere in the American Midwest in 1988. Teenager Marin Yearly lives a rather isolated and reclusive life, the result of a seemingly oppressive and hyper-vigilant father who literally locks her into her room at night. But this isn't just a simple case of toxic parenting, as becomes apparent when Marin successfully sneaks out to attend a sleepover and bites off somebody's finger. Marin, you see, is a cannibal and has been all her life. It's an uncontrollable need that has emerged multiple times since the young age of 3, and all of her father's strict rules are his desperate attempt to prevent her from hurting anyone. Now that Marin has turned 18, this last incident proves the final straw for her father. He helps her flee town, but then abandons her while she's sleeping, leaving behind her birth certificate, an envelope full of cash, and a Walkman with a tape on it, in which he explains to Marin her history of bloody cannibalistic actions. Wanting to understand herself better, Marin decides to seek out her mother, of whom she has no memory. So she sets out to travel to her mother's address on her birth certificate. Perhaps she can learn something there. Now, as it turns out, she starts learning well before reaching her destination. It seems she is not alone in her cannibalistic urges. There's an entire sub-community of eaters, as they call themselves, secretly living among the normal people. Will Marin find the answers she needs, either from her mother or among this new community she has discovered? Or if not answers, then perhaps at least love? Or is she doomed to always be alone, a prisoner of her uncontrollable urge for human flesh? So this film is based on the 2015 novel of the same name. Author Camille DeAngelis had just committed herself to a vegan diet before that, and the book uses its cannibalism elements in part to consider the moral implications of eating meat in general, not just human flesh. The book was optioned almost as soon as it came out, but the production schedule turned out to be a long one. This was in part because the scriptwriter had a lot of other commitments at the time, but also because he and the other core members of the creative team were determined that this film should be made without studio interference, which meant no studio money. Instead, they raised their $20 million budget from outside the film industry, which was not a quick and easy process, as you might imagine. Upon release, Bones and All got a positive critical reception. It received a 10-minute standing ovation at its premiere in Venice, which frankly to me sounds extravagant for any movie. And it also received gushing reviews that described it as profound, touching and genuine, and beautifully realised. Despite the critical acclaim, however, the film failed at the box office, and I can't say that's really a surprise to me. Of course, it struggled to find an audience. It's a romance story about cannibals. That's not exactly the kind of thing that screams mainstream entertainment. So, does the movie deserve all the critical praise? Well, in my opinion, it mostly does. Does that mean that it deserved greater financial and popular success? Well, not necessarily. Let's get into the details. So many reviewers of Bones and All praise the film's direction, cinematography, and score. These three aspects of the film received multiple award nominations. And in my opinion, all three deserved the accolades. This is a visually beautiful, orally rich film. The shot composition and editing is exceptional, creating a rich visual experience. And it does this in even the most prosaic environments. I mean, anybody halfway competent can take a gorgeous wilderness vista and make it look nice. Creating a rich visual tapestry from the dingy interior of a cheap prefab house is a matter of real skill, and you see that here. Whatever his other qualities as a filmmaker, and I certainly have my issues with his version of Suspiria, as I will one day discuss, director Luca Guadagnino certainly has an excellent command of the visual language of film storytelling. There are several occasions where I savoured a moment in the movie just for how great it looked. And the visuals are matched by the soundtrack, which combines original music composed by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross with some cracking 80s tunes, including songs by Duran Duran, Joy Division, and Aha. So if you have an interest in the visual and auditory components of filmmaking and the craft that underpins them, this is a movie that you should study. It's also a movie you should study if you've got an interest in the actor's craft. The performances in Bones and All garnered even more critical praise than did the direction, cinematography, and score. More award nominations too. I count 16 different acting award nominations on the film's Wikipedia page, more or less evenly split between Taylor Russell, who plays Marin, and Mark Rylance, who plays a seemingly helpful but still rather creepy older eater named Sully. Both performers thoroughly deserve these accolades, to my mind. Taylor Russell, in particular, achieves the impressive task of making Marin a likeable and sympathetic lead, even as she lives a lifestyle of murderous cannibalism. Also deserving praise is Timothy Chalamet, who plays Maron's major love interest in the film, an eater named Lee. Though Chalamet, or Chalamet, I'm never sure how to pronounce his name, was not nominated any awards for his performance, I suspect that was simply because Rylance's role was just that little bit meatier and diverse, and thus more memorable. But his performance as Lee is very solid, conveying real charm despite the character's gruesome eating habits. And then finally, the supporting cast is also very strong, including minor appearances from Golden Globe winner Chloe Sevigny, who plays Maron's mother, and Jessica Harper, who was the lead in the original 1977 Suspiria, and also had a minor role in Guadagnino's version of that film. Now, the final aspect of the film that drew award nominations was the screenplay, and it's here that I have to break ranks with the awards committees. Now, not with all the critics, some of whom had similar concerns about the film. One went as far as to say Guadagnino has a choice whether to be an artist or just the maker of artistically rendered garbage. And I think that's a bit harsh, but still, for me, there's a big problem with the script, and that is that it seems to be a bit of a thematic muddle. It's unclear what it's actually trying to say or convey. Is it, like the book, using cannibalism as a lens for analysing the morals of meat eating in general? There's certainly one scene that strongly suggests so, as Maron and Lee consider the possibility that cattle have families, loved ones, and friends, just like people do. But on the other hand, the film also clearly draws a strong moral divide between eating humans and eating other meat. The one time Maron and Lee meet someone who eats people because he wants to, rather than because he must, they are disgusted. They show no such reaction to the consumption of other kinds of meat, however. Then there's the question, are eaters evil for what they do? This is something that the film explicitly raises. Several times, Maron and Lee literally ask each other, are we bad people? The issue here for me is that the film seems to try and have the answer both ways. Yes, eaters are bad people because they do things they know are very wrong. But they're also afflicted by an uncontrollable need, so Leo and Maron are moral people because they try to minimize the damage they do in fulfilling that need. But yes, eaters are bad people. Almost every other eater they meet tries to eat them, even those in their own family. In at least one case, the motivation for this is explicitly because monsters like us need to die, which is at least somewhat moralistic, and on another occasion, the consumption is explicitly a matter of love. I suspect the intent is to leave it up to the audience, to give them freedom to make up their own minds, but for my money, the actual result is to leave the film feeling rather confused and moral and muddled in what it is that it's trying to say. So next time, while the Marvel Cinematic Universe is no longer the all-conquering juggernaut it once was, let's spare a thought for the beleaguered DC Comics cinematic universe, which has struggled to find anything like the same success and chalked up yet another critical and commercial disappointment with 2023 offering The Flash. But that is next time. Until then, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you've seen Bones and All, let me know what you thought of it.